Next up, we have Ken Hong from Sina Weibo. Some of you were here yesterday. How many participated in Ken's workshop yesterday? A fair number. We're going to aim for as little overlap as possible. Ken, come on up. And have a quick conversation about the ROI, unlocking ROI in China, unlocking the ROI of social in China. And we welcome questions, and I'd love to get the tweet wall up with questions if we can. First, I'd like to start out with looking at China, some of the differences between China and the rest of the world.
Good. I think that's a great question, and I think, when you look at social media, while there are a lot of similarities in terms of you can see how Chinese consumer also embrace social media as much as the Western does, I think, there are a lot of differences. A couple of things come to my mind. I think the first word is, I would say demanding. I think, because if you see a lot of consumers, they want a richer experience. They want more functionalities from the platform. They want more information from the brands. So I think it's
they're more demanding than consumers would be outside of China. In fact.
I would say so. I find so, and I think they also demand services because on our platform we see a lot of consumers. They want to complain to the brands if they had a bad experience, with their product. So they demand service, they demand quick responses, they demand more information, they demand product discounts and all these benefit stuff there as well. So I think demanding is the first thing come to my mind, and also in a very direct, I would say practical way. So the practical thing, maybe is the second thing that I want to talk about. They're more practical, and I think in China, I think don't just tell them a beautiful story, and I think also show them the love and show them the benefits, and by giving them real, product benefits or discounts or these reward stuff. So I think practical.
In terms of social media, you have to reward them in some way.
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. I think again, it's probably not enough to just watch a beautiful video. So and I think also inviting these fans to participate, some promotional events and things like that, and include them in these exclusive launches of new products. They want those things, so they're very.
They have to know what is the benefit for me. What am I getting out of it?
So they're very practical in that sense. So that's the second thing, I think. Last but not least, I think when we think about Chinese consumer, diverse is also another important thing to keep in mind.
Which is not something you normally think about when you think about China in some ways.
Right, and so I think, especially, I think, in social media now, it's penetrated so much throughout the, different tiers of cities, different locations, and I think how brands, when you are reaching out to top-tier city customers, versus lower tier cities, I think what engages them, what drives them into these active participation, I think things could be different. The content can be different, the different type of offers can be different.
Is that due to the ranges of economic development of the users, the different cultures of China?
Yes, absolutely. I think these are the factors that's really.
Are there any concrete examples you could cite about the different usages in different regions?
So we are seeing now, for example, on our platform, for example, that we have, while we have most of the top-tier city consumers already being our users, or continue to penetrate deeper into lower-tier cities. Some of our brands, they have done, some recent promotions and things like that. For example, some of them, they engaged Korean drama stars, like when they participate, you see more active participation maybe in somewhat lower cities, but not too low, but maybe tier 2 to tier 3 cities. So for these fans, they just love to participate in this kind of events. They love to be, to have interactions with these stars. So I think, again, you just see the type of reactions, it's quite different among these different tiers, and the type of products that will actually drive and get good responses.
Could you compare, contrast the sort of behaviors you might see on a platform, a short platform like Sina Weibo or Twitter, the kinds of usages? What is your mobile usage rate versus Twitter, for example?
So I would say the percentage of mobile access is probably similar. We have over about 75%, I think 75 to 78% of our users are accessing platform through mobile. I think that's about the same, I would say, compared to Facebook or Twitter. But I think, in terms of, because our experience are quite different from Twitter now. So again, so I think a lot of the video viewing and this buying experiences and things like that, we see a lot of those things happening on our platform. I don't know what's the stats for Twitter, but I think we see a lot of those consumptions.
Purchases off Twitter, 0, no?
I think they just started with some buy buttons, which we started last year, actually, allowing consumers to buy directly on the platform.
Right. I mean, it seems to me that when it started out, Sina Weibo bore a resemblance to Twitter, shall we say, but very quickly innovated, whereas Twitter has remained a much more static platform.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of related to the first point that I made, right? I think we found that consumers are demanding. I think we found that they want more experiences. They want to be able to post pictures from the very beginning, in addition to just text. They want to share videos. They want to see the videos. They want to get more information. So we're responding to our consumers' demand. All these diversity.
How would you describe the competitive nature of the Chinese social media environment versus the global one?
I think it's more fierce, to be honest.
As a platform, it's more fierce.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, because...
But certainly, when you see innovation like that, it's pushed by something.
Absolutely. And, I think, if you think about when Weibo first started, right? So Weibo literally just means microblogs, in Chinese. There were really like 4 big Weibo platforms in China before, although I think we are obviously the largest, and I think the other ones are probably not as relevant now, but I think, again, you can see that there are multiple players in that same category, which is not the case in the Western world. It's Twitter, and really nobody else was challenging Twitter in that specific, category. So I think, for us, obviously, I think there's more competition, and now, obviously, there are new forms of social media apps and products coming out, and so I think it's really fierce.
Right. Okay, so that's going to keep pushing more innovation.
Absolutely.
And in every category we see that with mobile apps as well. Let's speak a little bit about the fan economy. You mentioned the fan economy yesterday. Again, minimizing overlap with the discussion from yesterday, which is a great workshop. For those of you who missed it, fantastic workshop with Sina Weibo, looking at how brands can be social. What is the fan economy?
Well, not a problem to minimize. I only talked 55 minutes yesterday. I could have talked about this for 3 hours. So fans economy, I think, this is really a buzzword right now. And actually, interestingly, I don't think we invented this term in China. Actually, we heard, I think, some small to medium companies and businesses, they start to talk about this, and their agencies start to talk about this. So really what fans economy is, I think, this afternoon we're talking a lot about ROIs and social media and all that stuff. I think this is a genuine term from businesses, because they saw, a lot of small, medium businesses, they saw by creating this fan base, by harnessing, by kind of cultivating the fan base, investing in this, and they saw real value from a transaction and business perspective. So that's why they call fans economy. And I think, this is where we always kind of felt that, fans worth something, right? It's not just a number that you saw that on your profile page, let's say how many fans. So, how do you really create that? So I think, so this is what we are trying to do right now. And because all along the way that we have been trying to develop these products to allow business not only just to collect, grow the fan base, but also to engage, interact, and ultimately hopefully have transactions again, with your fans directly. So that's what, kind of what we feel the fans economy really is right now. So.
And how can companies interact in that? How can
So 3 things. So again, I think I mentioned this yesterday, so I'm going to be slightly redundant, but I just because I'm so passionate about this, I'm going to have to say this again.
Say it in a new way.
So I think the first thing is your company, you have to realize that, and you have to be committed to that. So I think this is what I mean from an organizational perspective, as well as your ecosystem, right? So you have to really set up your organizations. I think somebody mentioned this similar concept earlier, is how do you realign your organizations to do that? Secondly, I think on social media, do 2 things. I think one is continue to use social media to build your brand, build a social brand, close up the connection, the distance between your brand and your consumers. So continue to amplify your messages, have these social interactions. But that's all around the branding aspect of that. I think a lot of brands have done that, to be honest, but not enough brands have done the third thing, which is actually closing up the deals and making transactions and converting these fans. So I think here, I don't mean by just commerce, to be honest. And I think before that, there are lead generations, there are, and kind of an ongoing opportunity, creation, and then ultimately, obvious to have transactions, but it doesn't stop right there, right? So after transaction, how do you make these people have a good experience and love to share this with more people? So I think these three things kind of, that's what brands need to do.
How in Sina Weibo, and by the way, I would like to open up to questions. If anyone has a question, please raise your hand. And we'll either bring a microphone or we'll show the tweets. If you have tweet questions, tweet them over. #SocialMatters. How do the savviest brands measure ROI on Sina Weibo right now?
Yeah, that's a interesting, actually pretty big question as well, because
first of all, look at what sort of ROIs can they measure?
Exactly. So I think, before I answer this, I want to point out that with Weibo, actually, our type of advertisers have expanded a lot compared to the Sina days, because for the portal before that, most of our advertisers are large brand advertisers. But now with Weibo, actually, in addition to these large brand advertisers, a lot of small, medium businesses now also are doing marketing advertising on our platform. So I think from an ROI perspective, I would say mainly probably still break into three areas. I would say the first one, a lot of brands now still care about the branding effect, right? So they're still looking at,
reach, awareness.
Yeah, reach and influence, right? So the reach, you have different tiers of reach, right? So they have the initial tier, the seeding, the content, and all that stuff, and some are buying media right now, so they're reaching their target audience, but they also care what's the total reach, right? What's the spread? What's the influence? So that's one category. I think the ROI, a lot of brands still care about that. Now, some brands now, they graduate a little bit more up to the next level. They look at, engagements, follow-up, interactions with brands. They have, maybe driving this to different properties that they have. So engagement, I would say the second type of things that they are looking at. But then I would say more and more brands are now looking at results, right? So the results could be leads or sales. And I think here, I'll have to point out, actually, I think small, medium businesses are probably a little bit ahead of some large brands, to be honest. And I think small, medium business, they're very practical, right? So they're willing to invest, pay media or other formats of investment on a platform, but they want to see the results. They want to see the sales. They're monitoring the sales. They're monitoring the leads. But we are seeing more and more brands are looking into that directions there as well. So, and I think, to answer the second part of your question, how are we as a platform helping or enabling the brands to do so? We're certainly trying to provide as much data, along those dimensions. I would say products plus data, right? So for products, so we have more new products now helping brands to amplify the reach, right? So how do you do targeted reach? How do we maximize the exposures? So amplify the reach. We have engagements, so allowing brands to create light but shareable engagement on the platform. And ultimately with the buy button and these buy things and these transactions, these product cards, brands can transact directly on the platform. So.
Right, excellent. Okay. If we do not have any questions from the room, I think we'll wrap up. Thank you very much, Ken. Oh, we're correcting my microphone. Okay. Great. Ken, thank you so much.
Thank you.
What are the major consumer behavior differences in China in tier 1 to 3 cities? That's the question.
Okay, so I think I'll quickly answer that one. I think in top tier cities, I think you see more original content creation, and I think a lot more people will post stuff, more actively on their own. I think for lower tier cities, you see more consumers are probably browsing, reading, consuming, or maybe share, but they are not creating maybe as much as the top tier cities. So I think that's kind of from a genuine consumer's behavior. I think that's what we observe. And I mentioned earlier in terms of how they respond to different type of messages. I think I mentioned that earlier. So I'm not going to repeat
excellent.
that.
So the takeaways I've got from that is the social media users in China are more intense. They're involved in social. They're more demanding. They want more services. They want things to change. They're more practical. They will want to get something more transactional in a way. And finally, that they're much more diverse with this 1 to 3 cities thing. Excellent. Thank you very much, Ken.
Thanks.
Thank you.